to Welcome to Jackie's Learning Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm going to do a review, actually more like a discussion of the book of the trilogy Heartstone by Elle Katherine White. This trilogy first starts out with the book Heartstone and is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but our characters, Eliza Beltane and Alistair Daird, are in a fantastical medieval inspired world where Alistair comes from a family of dragon riders, and Eliza had a sister that was killed by a creature. I don't remember what. I think it was a griffin. Yes, it was a griffin. And they are surrounded by and they live in a little village where there are several different types of creatures, including like goblins and hobgoblins. There's trolls, there's nymphs, there's sea creatures, there's griffins. And she's friends with the little gnomes, and she's often friends with the hobgoblins and the gnomes, especially particularly in this one called Tobble. And the dragon riders come to visit their village, and just like in Pride and Prejudice, Eliza's mom wants to fix her older sister up with one of the dragon riders, and it follows basically the beats of Pride and Prejudice, but there is a lot more going on in the story. There is mysterious things going on that could be a threat to their village, and it becomes after this, but in this book, like, of course, ends the way Pride and Prejudice does, a very happy ending, but there's also a big epic battle towards the end where there's a really big dragon known as the Great Lindworm that they have to fight. And as if you've read Pride and Prejudice, you know how the story goes. Well, what's great about the rest of the trilogy and the other two books is they expand the world with Dragon Shadow, where our couple goes to another kingdom, and that's where we encounter some of the sea creatures, and we meet even more other creatures of the world who there's a mix of respect and distrust and dislike of the dragon riders. And we also look at the relationship between Eliza and Alistair and examine that relationship while they're in the middle of this, while Alistair is trying to do his job and protect the people who you've noticed that a lot of different parts of their world are being threatened, and weird things are been happening. And Eliza wanting to protect her family and to prove herself, especially because she is known as a Nakla, and Naklas are seen as beneath the dragon riders, and throughout this book you still see people seeing her that way, and she wants to prove that she's more than that she is capable of being a warrior. And all this comes to a head in the last book where a big war happens. And we meet the true antagonist of this series. And this was such a great trilogy, a great retelling of Pride and Prejudice. But that's also, I am a fantasy fan, so the idea of taking that classic story and turning it into a fantasy story, and also not a romantasy. Like, it's not a fantasy story. It's not a romance with the fantasy elements in it. It is like the first book. Maybe you could see that, but maybe you could argue. Although, actually, no, not really, because the romance plot doesn't. Yes, it is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, but it doesn't take over the story. Like, you still have the Pride and Prejudice beats, but it's not like in fact, you don't really have a lot of it's more of the sexy times are more like fade to black kind of thing, where you get some teases of it, but it's not like it goes. Elle Katherine White does not go into vivid detail about their intimate scenes. She just hints at them and talk about how the characters feel afterwards and all that, but there's not a lot of description. You don't get a lot of sexy times in this trilogy because it's focused more on the bigger conflict. that they're in the middle of. And it focuses on their relationship. And like I said, it's a Pride and Prejudice retelling, so it's not really a secret that they end up together. And I mean, if I remember, I'll make a little note on my on the description box that this is a kind of a might be a spoiler for Pride and Prejudice and this trilogy. Or I'll just say that there might be, it might be spoilers. I don't know. I might not. Like I said, usually discussions are spoiler filled. So I don't know. I'll say, maybe I'll just say there might be spoilers. I don't. But anyway, but I just, so it's, really about them adapting as a married couple to this situation. And meanwhile, well, in the second book, we're introduced to like this new marriage, but also the fact that not only, as I said earlier, Eliza is trying to prove herself to be a warrior and not just some Nekla, but she's very capable. But also you have Alistair who, she wants to protect him and he wants to protect her because this is his job. He is a warrior. And he wants, and she's only seen, like, been in one battle. Like, she's seen things, of course. Like, her sister, you find it, and this is not much of a spoiler anyway, because it's said in the back description of the first book that her sister got killed by a griffin. And so she was just in this other war. So she does have some experience, but not enough to really, truly, in Alistair's mind, understand how big and how dangerous this war is. And and of course you have that whole "this is not a game" cliche, and that has always bothered me when characters just are like, they think you're not taking things seriously, and so they're like, "this is not a game, this is a life or death." And I'm just thinking, I'm pretty sure that character understands it's not a game. Like, yeah, you have some characters in these situations who just think it's might just think it's a game, like all fun and games, or just, actually get a thrill out of this and enjoy it and all that and have some fun. And, they might even get an adrenaline rush from the danger and everything. And, but it always, whenever a character says that to another character, like, "this is not a game, you don't understand," it's like, I always, that's a pet peeve of mine when a character says that it's like, that is not, the person knows it's not a game. But anyway, but he is also dealing with what happened at the end of the first book, and how he's not 100%, and he's trying to live up to his family's name, because the Dayard family is very important, and they're brave, mighty warriors and they garner a lot of respect. And he's feeling like, after what happened in the last book, that he is not as good as he once was, and he's struggling when trying to protect her. He feels like, what if I can't protect you? And because she wants to prove herself, she becomes very reckless and puts herself in danger. And that upsets him. At one point in the middle of Dragon Shadow, she does something that, when he says, "you run," when I say run, you run, and she doesn't listen because she sees, oh, my, beloved new husband is in danger. I want to save him. And he's like, and that ended up being the wrong decision, because that almost got dire consequences. And of course, they already have someone that does not trust them anyway, and then wants to, because they are in a setting, that scene is in a place where they have these guardians that are trying to protect these guardians of this place, and they see them as a threat, that it's their fault, that they are put in danger, that their world, the place they're protecting is in danger. And so there's already that problem. So the fact that they're trying, and then to top it all off, she's trying to, be a hero, and it ends up being, like I said, being a mistake. So that kind of comes between them. I mean, they eventually work past it by book 3, but, he's dealing, struggling with that. Maybe I can't live up to my family name anymore. And he has a lot of strong respect for his father. He loves his father, he worships his father, and, and then in by book 3, he starts to learn some secrets about his father. And book 3 very much focuses on the Dared family. I mean, it's hinted at in book 2, but in book 3 it explores the idea that the Dared family is not always that great, and that again, there's consequences for your actions, and that maybe this family has some dark secrets, and not everybody loves them or respects them. And so he's realizing his loyalty and love for his father is put to the test in book 3 and challenged. His family legacy is challenged. So he has to, in book 3, their family has to prove that they deserve their alkaloids, that they deserve to be respected. That is, like, that comes into play in book 3. So I also like how in book 3 we get a lot more of Juliana, and even a little bit more of Angie, which is Angie, who is Eliza's sister. And she is, I mean, they still don't come until like later in the story, like probably at the halfway point. But we get to see them be warriors too. And like Angie, not in a, well, yeah, actually, yeah. We get to see both of them, both her and Juliana, as warriors too. Because, like, they kind of disappeared in book 2, like, because book 2 is focused on Eliza and Alistair going to this other kingdom. Where another thing they do that shows their marriage, that really explores their marriage, is it's compared to this other marriage in book 2 that is kind of on shaky ground. Like, it's a marriage where it's kind of one-sided, like, and the female in the marriage, she is kind of kept quiet and told to just be a good smile, act like you're happy, or at least he thinks that she's happy, and she, on the surface, it seems like she's content. But then Eliza quickly figures out that something's not right, and this woman is not completely happy. And so this does allow for Eliza and Alistair to really appreciate their own marriage, that they made a choice to be together. That, yeah, their marriage has had some rough patches, but I mean, it's early in their relationship, and they realize that they work well together. They are a great team, they are great partners, and their love is real and authentic. And you see there's this other marriage which is not as authentic and not as real. Like, there's a sort of love on one end of the marriage, one person's side, but it's more of a, like, this person is projecting their love onto the other person and forcing them. And even though, yeah, maybe they like the other person, they think they're okay, they don't hate them or anything, but they feel trapped in that marriage. And they feel like, and it's like, do they really love them? And the choice is taken from the woman. So that, I think that was really good to have that marriage compared to Eliza and I'm sorry, I keep changing up how I say her name, but I still don't know how to say it. And Alistair. We also, I love, like I said, I love Tommel. He's adorable. He's feisty. He's very loyal, but he's also mischievous. I really, and he's very helpful. He really cares about Eliza and her family and wants to do his part. So I just love him. And then the dragons. Although I wish we had got more dragon action. I mean, not action, because we got plenty of dragon action, but I wish we had got a little bit more time with the dragons. But of course, the story's focused on the dragons. I mean, on the humans and not necessarily the dragons. But one thing I know about the dragons, I noticed, is that they are it seems like they kind of are an extension of the personality of their rider, they like the personalities are very similar to the rider, which is interesting because I feel like the aunt, Alistair's aunt, she is not as harsh and as mean and cold as her counterpart in Pride and Prejudice. Her dragon Hereke is kind of the one who's a little snobby and prejudiced against Eliza, and like even when they see each other again in book 3, in the beginning, she's still like, you're not worthy, and she doesn't bother talking to Eliza. She kind of ignores her. And Alistair's dragon, Akara is just like, that's just how she is. Don't worry about it. But eventually, when she realizes that they're on the same side and they can help, their allies and they can help each other, and the situation, everything just falls apart. I think she just puts that prejudice aside, and they end up working together, or they end up trusting each other. I mean, they don't work together directly, but there is just, I accept you're my ally here. We're on the same team. I will listen to you, and you can listen, and if kind of thing. But I do wish we could got more of them. And also, like I said, we didn't really get like the Juliana and Angie and all the others, and Eliza's sisters kind of disappear in book 2 and come back in book 3. But I wish that because I saw the potential of those characters, I would love for Elle Katherine White to write more books in this world with those characters, especially like her sister Lydia. She is Lydia is her counterpart, but Lydia, she actually gets to develop a lot more than Lydia did in the original Pride and Prejudice. Lydia doesn't really change that much. And, in fact, she gets her quote-unquote happy ending in the book. She still gets to be married to Wickham, even though he might be miserable being married to her. But in this one, she actually gets, because of how things turn out for her in the end of the first book, she learns from that experience and grows as a character, and she really develops into a brave, strong young woman and a warrior herself, or a potential to be a warrior. And I would love to see their characters grow and get to know them better. And I would love for maybe even if it's just in novellas or short stories, I'd like to see where those characters could go next. I would love for Elle Katherine White to explore more in this world, and we get to know some more of this world, and she can do it via retelling, or just continue on with this without the retelling element. Because I feel like some of those characters have a lot of potential, and for their own stories, and to continue to learn and grow. And you see that Angie she is being taught by her husband Cedric to be a warrior herself, and she proves very brave and heroic, but we also don't get to see a lot of it because, of course, this is still Eliza's story. We're still with her the whole time. Which also was, that is another thing that we don't get to see the scenes of the Dares with the bad guy, with our antagonist. There is a scene where they're alone with him because Eliza and another character and Juliana are allowed to escape, leaving the rest of the Dare family with the antagonist. And so we're not in that scene. So that's always the only hindrance with books where we're in a first-person perspective, is because the whole time we are with that character. Even books where it's not I statements, we're not in that character's head, but it's from a certain point of view. Harry Potter, we're only with Harry the whole time. It's not his I did this, I feel this way, but we're still only, yes, it's not first person narrative, but it's still first person perspective, because we are only with Harry Potter this whole time. It's still his story. And so that does limit us a little bit, especially if you don't like the main character. If you're not liking them for some reason, then. But yeah, there are and sometimes, especially in young adult books, sometimes the other characters, the secondary characters, are much more interesting. Because I think authors that write young adult books, sometimes the young adult main characters are often like, they're relatable and you can project yourself onto them, but that means that they're little, like, they're a bit of a blank slate, either that or they're just too much of something. Like they're too much of a goody or something. Like they're not as complex. Although now that's evolved and changed over the last 10 years, I think. But there was a time when the characters seemed to be like not as complex, and sometimes they're not even the main characters aren't as interesting. So now Elise, of course, is very interesting, the main character. She is a fun main character, but there are parts of the story where I would love to have seen the other moments with some of these other characters, and hear their thoughts and stuff. And also another thing, because we had more of Juliana in this third book, Flamebringer, we get to see a preview of the relationship between Eliza and Juliana. Because Juliana is still very young, and she's still very scared in the situation that they find themselves in with the antagonist. And and Eliza is very supportive and very protective and helping her, giving her courage. So it was nice to see, even though we didn't get a lot of it, we only got some of it in this Flamebringer, but we didn't it was still enough of a tease to have hope that this relationship is really gonna be great when we see it, and with it as it develops outside of outside of these books. I'd love to get Juliana's story. I would really want to see where we go from her with her, and does she find another love interest, or maybe she's just happy content on her own, and she feels that she only needs Marish, her dragon, and that is a warrior, just a brave, confident warrior that doesn't need that she doesn't need a romantic partner. Or maybe she does. I don't know. But, and then Angie, see after what happens to her, what she experiences, I would love to see where she goes from there, and how she deals with the aftermath of all this and all this trauma, and, even though, yeah, she becomes a warrior, it's not like it won't be traumatic for her, this whole situation, what happens to her. Also, like I said, I wish they had done more of the dragons. They each had not only were the extensions of the character of their writers, but they also have their own personalities. And we do get more of the dragon world. We meet other dragons outside of the main character's dragons. Because there's at one point where Eliza and Alistair must go to the dragon capital or whatever, the main dragon city, to talk to the dragons and seek their help. So we do get a glimpse of that as well, meeting them. I mean, I'm always for a dragon story. I always love, anytime there's dragons involved. And the dragons do talk, so obviously. I know not everybody likes it, but I mean, most dragons in books do that anyway, but, I think I have heard some people say that they aren't big into that. They just like dragons as just animals. Let's see, what else did I, trying to think of. I wish each of the books was a little bit longer. We explore more in these books. That would have been nice. But it was a fast rate. I mean, it was all the books 2 and 3. It did take me some time to get into it because it was slow in the beginning, but not necessarily in a bad way. Just building it all up and stuff. But it was such a fun take on the story. Like I said, it made me think of Tooth and Claw by Joe Walton, which was another fun retelling of Pride and Prejudice with dragons.
Now, this was a little bit closer. That one didn't feel 100% like a retelling. This one, that was that's the only thing, is because this first book is a retelling, so it's a little bit more predictable, and most of the book is kind of predictable. Not all of it. I mean, once we get to the big climax, then it gets interesting, but not that it wasn't, I should say, it goes in a different direction at the end of book one. But a lot of book one, you kind of had a feeling you knew it was coming. A lot of plot beats, especially, obviously, like, more so with the romance, probably. Because it was a retelling, so you knew the beats, and this was very much a direct retelling, except for the fact that there were dragon riders, and there's magical creatures, and there might be a war coming, and, but at the end of book one, something, it gets pretty, big, and, like, a lot more is going on, and certain things happen to certain characters that I was surprised by. But yeah, I had a really good time reading this, and so if you like fantasy, and you like, when you liked Jane Austen works, Pride and Prejudice particularly, then you probably enjoy this. So those are my thoughts on the Heartstone series by Katherine L. White. Elle Katherine White. I keep getting the name Katherine and L mixed up, but it's Katherine L. Not Katherine. Elle Katherine White. Elle Katherine White is the author of Heartstone. Elle Katherine White. Alright, so if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you are interested in more of my content, and click the bell icon if you want to be notified about my latest videos, and I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!